الفاتحة بنية أن الله يفتح علينا فتوح العارفين ويفقهنا في الدين وبما نوى أسلافنا الصالحين خصوصا على ما نوى صاحب الكتاب الحبيب عبد الله بن علوي بن محمد الحداد وبنية أن الله يغفر لهم ويرحم وأصوله وفريه وأن الله يغفر لهم ويرحمهم ويعلي درجاتهم في الجنة وينفعنا بأسرارهم وأنوارهم وعلومهم ونفحاتهم في الدين والدنيا والآخرة وأن الله يرزقنا سر كتب الإمام عبد الله بن علوي بن محمد الحداد وسر راتب الحداد لهذه النية ولكل نية صالحة وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بسر الأسرار الفاتحة. بسم الله إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Alhamdulillah, we proceed now from our reading of the Risalatul Mu'awanah of Imam Abdullah bin Alawi bin Muhammad al-Haddad. So the last time we were speaking about the merits or the virtues of performing the religious obligations and then to supplement it with the supererogatory acts as al-ibadatul nawafil. And we explained the last time how ibadah is basically becoming of us, yes, or is incumbent upon us as the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is our natural state. And today, inshallah, we will resume this chapter whereby we will find Imam Abdullah bin Alawi al-Haddad to speak about al-ilm, about knowledge as associated with ibadah. Knowledge which is the prerequisite of the ibadah. Wa'alam, as Imam al-Haddad said, wa'alam, so you must bear in mind, annaka la tasil, indeed, that you will not be able to arrive, you will not be able to perform. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated you from the acts of obligation, and you will not be able to abstain from that which He has prohibited you of the acts of disobedience, and also وَإِلَى الْعَمَلِ بِمَا شَرَعَ لَكَ مِنْ نَوَافِلِ, and you will not be able to do with what has been considered or deemed supererogatory with regards to that which brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except through knowledge, through the intermediary of al-ilm. فَعَلَيْكَ, so therefore it is your duty to seek knowledge, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, seeking knowledge, talabul ilma faridatun, it is a religious duty over all Muslims. Wa bil ilmi, and through knowledge you know what is wajib as wajib, and what is meritorious as meritorious, what is haram as haram, and you know how to perform the wajib, to addil wajib wa taf'alul mandub, and to perform that which is obligatory or that which is praiseworthy, and to leave that which is muharram, that which is haram. فَإِذَنْ, so therefore, لَا بُدَّ لَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, so therefore you have no choice but to acquire and seek knowledge. وَلَا غِنَى لَكَ عَنْهُ, and you are not sufficient against it. وَعَلَيْهِ وَعَلَى الْعَمَلْ بِهِ, and upon knowledge and upon the practicing of knowledge is centered your happiness in the dunya wal akhirah. So we see here that Imam Abdullah bin Alawi al-Haddad has spoken about a particular kind or particular portion of knowledge. Although knowledge in general in Islam is an important aspect. Yes, we see that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises and raises those who have been honored with knowledge. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Shahidallahu. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bears witness. Yes, wal malaikatu wa ulul ilmi. Yes, annahu la ilaha illahu wa ulul ilmi wal malaika. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares that there is no God but Him, and the angels, and those who have been given knowledge also bears witness. So we see in this verse that those who have been given knowledge, yes, have been ranked together with the angels. Yes. And those who have been given knowledge is ranked together with the angels, and that which they bear witness to is the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the and that knowledge that is a human being. Yes, to the rank of angels with regards to knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certainly, yes, bearing witness of the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of those who have been given knowledge, is not the same as those who merely arrive at the rational unity, or at the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through ratiocination or through a cognitive exercise. A person may arrive at the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through looking at the signs in this dunya. Yes, that is the tariq, that is the path of the mutakallimun, the path of the theologians. They said the dunya, the kaun, yes, creation is the proof of a creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, yes, said to the mushrikun, or to the kafirun, to humanity in general, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Do they not see how the camel is created, and how the canopic skies were raised, and how the earth was established, and so on? Now, these are apparent signs left in creation through which you may arrive and you may discern that there's a creator behind it. But as for those who are given knowledge, yes, they are given special knowledge through their worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That kind of knowledge is of the nature of kashf, yes, of the nature of unveiling. So, but in order for you to be eligible, to receive this higher on knowledge, unless of course out of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala special favor, He you are required to learn, yes, how He is to be worshipped, how and what are some of the things to abstain from. You are to prepare yourself, yes, to receive the amanah of knowledge. For knowledge is a trust indeed. Yes, and not anyone, not just anyone can bear, yes, the trust of amanah, the trust of knowledge. As it's attributed to a hadith of the Prophet, and sometimes attributed to the sayings of the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, that that giving knowledge, yes, to the person who does not deserve it, it's as if you were to adorn, yes, a swine, a pig, with a necklace laced with jewels. Yes, in other words, knowledge is such a worthy trust that it is to be given only to the trustworthy. And by learning ibadat, yes, learning the learning the quarter of ibadah, learning what is wajib, what is haram, learning what is mandub, in order to perform them. Yes, this is basically putting yourself in a position such that you are preparing yourself to receive the divine gifts of illumination and certainty. And only those who have practiced it, yes, will have then earned, yes, the rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises, yes, for the mukhlasin, yes, for the mu'minin, and so on. And also it is through knowledge, therefore, that a servant becomes a true servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the designation has already been clear, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Yes, I have not created mankind nor the jinn except through worship, to worship me. And since our task is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is therefore our duty to seek, yes, and to learn how He is to be served, how He is to be pleased, yes, how to earn His rida. And certainly, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns against worshipping Him according to our whims, yes, because that would not be worshipping Him, that would be worshipping our own desires. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, أَفَغَيْرَ دِينِ اللَّهِ يَبْغُونَ. They desire other than the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ. Whereas everything submits to Him, as everything in heavens and the earth submit to Him. either willingly, yes, either willingly or otherwise, taw'an wa karhan, either willingly or forcefully. Yes, and we know that everything submits, even the mushrikun, even those who set up partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the kafirun, those who deny the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, even the so-called agnostics and atheists, they all submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that theirs is not a willing submission, because their body submits, certainly, yes, their body submits to his rules and laws and regulations, and they shall surely die, and they follow his orders and commands, yes, but they shall not be rewarded for it, they shall be punished for it. And the manner of their submission is contrary and against, yes, his commands and prohibitions. But as for the believers, they are those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taw'an, in a state of willingness, in a state of serenity, in the same way as the heavens. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed, after having created the heavens and the earth, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them, yes, do you come to me? They say, "Atayna ta'i'in." We come to you in a state of obedience. Yes, so even creation, as brilliant, as luminous, as beautiful as the heavens and the earths, make tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they submit to him willingly. Yes, what more than mankind who has been invested, yes, mankind who has been invested with the gift of the aqal, who has been invested with the ruh min amri rabbi, yes, the ruh, yes, from the alam al-amr, from the realm of command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of which through the ruh is manifested a great amount of abilities and capabilities, a great amount of creativity. Yes, that is and so on and so forth. Certainly, it is incumbent upon us to learn how to worship Him, and to learn how to worship Him must be based on the way that is approved by Him through the intermediary of the Messenger, of which Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has validated. Yes, and of whom He has chosen to be our teacher, as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said, "Alladhi ba'atha fil ummiyin." He is the one who has sent amongst the unlettered peoples, Rasulan minhum, a messenger from them. Yes, in order that he may uh, recite to them his signs, meaning to say, to prove that he is the source of this command. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, in order to purify them. وَلِيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and in order that he can teach them the book, yani the Quran, wal hikmah, and wisdom. And wisdom is the property of the Sunnah. So therefore, we have to learn this properly. We have to acknowledge properly, yes, the superiority of this knowledge over and above, yes, any other kinds of knowledge, because we affirm that there are types of knowledge that derives from our intellect. There is a type of knowledge that derives from observation. There is a type of knowledge that derives from a combination of the intellect and observation. There is a knowledge that we obtain through experience, yes, of the sensible world, yes, and then there is knowledge that we arrive at through a combination of that plus intuition, yes, the knowledge that is of the nature of expertise. But of all of this, yes, that which is superior, yes, that which is primary, ought to be the knowledge which is obligatory upon us, since our eventual success, our eventual salvation, and is dependent upon that knowledge. واعلم أن من عبد الله بغير علم كان الضرر العائد عليه بسبب عبادته أكثر من النفع الحاصل له بها. And know also that a person who worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge, the harm that visits him, that comes upon him through his ibadah, is more, yes, than the benefit that he receives through ibadah. وَكَمْ مِنْ عَابِدٍ, yes, and how many amongst the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at'aba nafsah, yes, they tire themselves through ibadah, they tire their bodies through ibadah. وَهُوَ مَعَ ذَلِكَ مُسِرٌ عَلَى مَعْصِيَةٍ, Allahu Akbar. And indeed, he is in a continuous state of ma'asiyah. Yara annaha ta'ah. Yes. But at the same time, basically, while he is in a continuous state of ibadah, he performs the ma'asiyah, several forms of disobediences, and he thinks that it is part and parcel of his obedience, or that it is not a ma'asiyah. Waliyadu billah. Yes. So in this way, then, it is as if person does not realize that he counts his assets, yes, as if they are worthy, and at the same time he does not recognize and realize his liabilities, and it is these liabilities that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his wise statements say about how, for example, a lady said that he will know for her daily fasts and her qiyamul layl, yes, her daily fast and prayers, but it amounts to nothing, because she was also known as she was also a person, yes, who gives in to speaking ill about others, and who's given to backbiting, yes, and to hurt people's feelings with her tongue. So therefore, there is no good in her, in a sense that her doing bad to others cancels out whatever good that he may have done. And similarly, another case of a Sahaba, or a companion, yes, who has performed his prayer, but is not in attendance, yes, in his prayer. So therefore, his prayer amounts to nothing, and so on and so forth. Yes. وقد حكى الشيخ العارف بالله محمد بن علي عربي في باب الوصايا من الفتوحات عن الرجل من أهل المغرب أنه كان كثير الاجتهاد في العبادة وأنه اشترى أتانا. Yes, so there is a person, yes, as narrated by Sheikh Al-Arif Muhammad bin Ali Arabi in his book, in the chapter of Wasaya, yes, to the Futuhat, from a man, Rajulin, of Al-Maghrib, يعني the West, or Morocco, أنه كان كثير الاجتهاد, that he struggles a lot in the ibadah, and he once bought a female donkey, or is it called a mare, I suppose. ولم يستعملها في شيء, and he does not use the donkey as an animal carrying weight and so on. فسأله الإنسان عن سبب إمساكها, and other people then proceeded to ask, why has he not deployed her for labor? He said, Allahu Akbar, wa amsaktuha illa li uhassina biha faraja. Yes, and basically he does not deploy her for labor because he has other other intentions and other functions that he uses her for. وكان لا يعلم, yes, he does not know that that approaching a beast for one's carnal desires is haram. فلما عرفه, when he then came to know that it is haram, أشفق وبكى بكاء شديدا. Yes, he became saddened, and he cried profusely. Yes, entire al-hikayah بمعناها. This is a very important hikayah, yes, that is said. Yes, because many of us, perhaps, we do not know sometimes, our earnings, or perhaps sometimes some of our actions, that it is haram, that it earns sins, and due to our ignorance, we continue to do that. Whereas ignorance in this case is not an excuse. Yes, ignorance ought to be remedied by seeking knowledge. Yes, وَالْعِلْمِ الْوَاجِبِ. And so, what is the qadar, or what is the required knowledge? Yes, على كل Muslim, upon every believer, هو أن يعلم. It is first and foremost to know wujub jami al-fara'id. He must know the wujub, yes, the obligatoriness, the status of obligatoriness of everything that is wajib upon him. Yes, wa tahrim, and the prohibited status, yes, of all that which is prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is extremely important, especially in our day and age. Yes, from the coming or from the era from the age that has been dubbed by Professor Attas as the era of confusion and error in knowledge and the loss of adab and the rise of false leaders. Yes, because of false charlatans, yes, speaking on behalf of this religion, yes, who may not have studied properly or who may have an ill intent, yes, who decided to make that which is haram wajib and that which is wajib haram, or rather, yes, or that which is mandub haram. And some of them, for example, who in certain acts of ibadah, yes, introduce certain actions, yes, that by nature makes it batal, yes, and worse still, some of them who are, let us say, entrusted with positions of authority, yes, especially with regards to the ibadat, yes, they introduce certain justifications which is not properly justified, and this is especially in the realms of muamalah and munakahat, yes, the realms of business and trade, and the realm of munakaha, the realm of marriage, yes. So, billah, yes, this is this is something that we have to be concerned with, yes, because this is our religion. This is our capital with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what more the ibadah, especially the ibadah that rests on, for example, other sciences, such as the science of ilmul falak, yes, the science of astronomy, of which, and the science that require, and other ibadat that is dependent upon sightings, and so on. And zakat, for example, yes, because this involves agents collecting zakat, and so on and so forth. So therefore, it is incumbent upon us to find, to study in our time, not only to the extent that we will be able to perform our duties, but also to be able to discern, yes, who are the proper keepers of trust that we can seek knowledge from. And this is an important aspect, because let us say that for the general people, yes, for the generality, the more strategic solution to trying to find out what is obligatory upon us is to follow a madhab, yes, to follow a madhab which has been tried and tested. In other words, it is to taqlid a madhab. And this taqlid of a madhab is not blind following. It is, as Professor Wan describes, rather it is in us. But we have to have sufficient amount of knowledge, yes, in order for it to qualify as an intelligent trust, to be able to determine who are the proper keepers of trust, yes, who are not swayed, let us say, by their own personal ambitions, who are not swayed, yes, by political ambitions, such that they do not give out fatwa, yes, they do not give fatwa basically in support of a maybe politically correct opinion, or a particularly popular opinion at that time, in order to raise their status, yes, but they do so out of their honesty, yes, with regards to the Quran and Sunnah, yes. And be careful also at this juncture, yes, is not to fall into the trappings of finding false teachers. Yes, false teachers whose conclusions are inconclusive. False teachers whose conclusions are inconclusive, because they are, so to speak, let us say, they are freestyling with regards to the sources, the Quran and Sunnah, and they disregard, therefore, the wealth of the Islamic intellectual tradition, and they have not studied properly with the teacher. And this is especially with regards to the realms of the halal and haram and the wajib, yes. And certainly, of course, also with regards to the elements of worldview, yes, the elements of belief and practice, yes, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, yes, there's two verses which is relevant to this. Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addul amanat ila ahliha. First, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands that we return trust, yes, to its proper keepers. And amongst the most weightiest of trust would be the trust of knowledge, yes. And secondly, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Was'alu ahla dhikr." So ask the people of knowledge. Ask the people of knowledge in kuntum la ta'lamun, if you do not have knowledge. Yes. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. And do not utter, do not wrangle, do not enter into matters of which you have no knowledge, because your sight, your hearing, and your heart, these will all be questioned. These will all be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, whether or not you have utilized them properly. Yes, and these three organs of cognition, yes, through which for hearing, it is basically as found in another verse in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Alladhina yastami'una al-qawla," those who hear, yes, the speeches of people, وَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ, and they follow the best of them. Yes, they follow the best of them. And as for sight, as we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to utilize sight to perceive, yes, to perceive, yes, historical matters and so on, and also things of our present, pertaining to our present needs. Yes, if there are certain checks that we can perform. Yes, and then finally the qalb, yes, the heart, whether whether it sits well with our heart, yes, after having contemplated, yes, whether or not such and such is a trustworthy statement and so on. نعم. وأما العلم بكيفية فعل الشيء الواجب فلا يجب إلا عند إرادة مباشرته. So when, however, so in general, the wajib and the haram, this one is obligatory upon everyone. Meaning to say, this is what you call al-ma'lum bid-darura. It is necessary for everyone to know that consuming intoxicants is haram. It is necessary for everyone to know that consuming riba is haram. It is necessary for everyone to know that salah is wajib. It's necessary for everyone to know, yes, that you ought to pay zakat, and you have to know what aspects of your wealth, yes, that zakat is due. It is necessary for everyone to know all of that in general. But as for how to perform particular aspects, yes, of the wajib, it only becomes wajib when you intend to do it, or when the time of its performance is drawing close. For example, yes, Imam Haddad gives us here, فَمَنْ بَلَغَ أَوْ أَسْلَمَ. Let us say that a person reaches puberty, yes, or becomes Muslim in the month of Muharram, yes. Then what is wajib upon him? Let us say he becomes Muslim in the morning, yes. He goes to a masjid for duha and takes the shahada then, yes. So what he must learn immediately, yes, is first and foremost ma'na shahadatain. He must learn the meaning of the kalimah, the formula of shahada, and he must utter them. وَيَنْتِقُ بِهِمَا. Yes, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. وَيَتَعَلَّمْ, and he must also know, yes, the wujub as-salawat al-khams. He must learn, as a matter of practical importance, he must learn the 5 daily prayers, yes, or its status as being obligatory, and when they come, when they become obligatory. وما يجب من معرفة أركانها وأحكامها, and he must know what is required in terms of its arkan and ahkam. Yes, meaning to say that which is part and parcel of the prayer. Yes, including basically including the its necessary components. Yes, the disregarding of which will make the salat null. Yes, the ahkamiha and arkaniha. ومن الواجب عليه أن يعرف وجوب الصوم والزكاة والحج وغيرها من الواجبات العينية، ويعرف تحريم الزنا وشرب الخمر وأخذ أموال الناس بالباطل وغيرها من المحرمات الشرعية، ولكن لا يجب. And also he must know, yes, as we said just now, that fasting is wajib, yes, and zakat is wajib, hajj is wajib, yes, with their provisions and requirements, and other aspects which is wajib, ainiyah, yes, which is wajib upon him as an individual, yes, because there are certain wajibat which is of the nature of the fardu kifayah, which is obligatory as a matter of public requirement, yes, as a matter of public requirement. If, let us say, a certain critical mass have performed it, then it dispenses of his for the fardu ain, then it is not wajib at that instance, yes. And also he must know, yes, that zina is haram, fornication is haram, drinking alcohol or intoxicants is haram, and taking people's wealth in the wrong manner, batil, that is haram. ولكن, however, it is not wajib upon him at that instance أن كيفية الصيام, because we said that he became Muslim in Muharram. So therefore, in Muharram, it is not yet due for him to study how to perform the Sawm, the fast, and what nullifies it. It's close, and he performed the Hajj, and wala kayfiyat zakat. And also at the same time, at that instance, zakat, how to perform the zakat is not yet incumbent upon him. Illa, unless, of course, hatta yamliku malan yuzakki, and unless he possesses wealth of which it is zakat is due upon him. ويجي وقت إخراج الزكاة والله أعلم. And when the time of the when the time for the performance of zakat has come. والمحرمات والواجبات العينية معروفة بين المسلمين لا تكاد تخفى وإنما المهم معرفة الأحكام. And of course, that which is haram and that which is wajib, which is incumbent upon every individual, is well known amongst the Muslims, the Muslims. ولا لا تكاد تخفى. It is not something which is hidden. Yes, indeed, what is important then is to study the ahkam, yes, the hukum, yes, the ahkam pertaining to various other things, as we said just now. Because sometimes, especially in our times, due to the introduction of a foreign worldview and a foreign system of values, yes, what is not clear in our time is, for example, the hukuk al walidain, as the rights of our parents, as the right of our parents. Whereas we know that disobedience to parents and hurting their feelings, it is one of the kaba'ir. Yes, it is one of the major sins. It is one of the major sins after shirk. But na'udhu billahi min dhalik, we live in a time children are raised, yes, to understand that their individuality, and they are accorded the so-called human rights until they come to the far extent that they lose existence. Yes. And this is extremely unfortunate, as the Prophet ﷺ has described. It is one of the signs of the Sa'ah is drawing near, that the end of days are coming, when antalid amatu rabbataha, when mother gives birth to her lord, her master, her mistress, so to speak. Waliyad billah, yes. And so therefore, a person who becomes a Muslim, or who reaches maturity and who's studying their religion, they must know, yes, their duty to their parents. That's amongst the first things that they need to correct. Yes, they need to correct. When you look at the verses in to the conduct, or she threatened him that unless he does so, she would not eat, nor would she drink. Yes, and she would put herself in the scorching sun. Yes, and Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, of course, at that time, due to his strong commitment to the religion, he said, even if you were to die 100 lives, yes, even if you were to die 100 lives, I would still remain committed to the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the religion of Islam. And then, of course, he waited until he sought advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam without an answer, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses about how that you are وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, that you are to be kind to them in the matters of the dunya. Yes, وَصَاحِبُهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, in the matters of the world, do that which is kind to them. However, in matters of shirk, in matters of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la tuti'huma. Yes, do not be obedient to them. And the lesson here is that a person is required to be kind to their parents, to be obedient to their parents, and to seek the pleasure of their parents, even if their parents are mushrikun. Yes, even their parents are, let us say, are polytheists. What more if the parents are Muslims? Yes. What more if the parents are amongst the akhyar, the salihin? Yes. And so this is something that we need to learn in our time. Yes. How and sometimes, billah, it is the parents, yes, that spoil the children. It is the parents that make the children or turn the children into disobedient children. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the children are born upon the fitrah, but it is the parents that fashion them, yes, as Christians or as Jews or as the Majus. In other words, to follow. Yes, waliyadu billah. This is something that is troubling of the Muslim communities today. As a person, picks up a book on parenting, picks up a book on on raising children, yes, by some some professor, some sociologist, some anthropologist, and so on, and immediately thinks that the advice is gospel. Yes, immediately think that the advice is to be practiced, but they don't realize that they have already, yes, they already have the example and the guidance and the guidelines from the Quran and the Sunnah. So that, yes, so that's another wajib that is important, to teach our children how to become obedient to their parents. Yes, as the Prophet ﷺ said, muru, yes, command, yes, your children, muru awladakum, command them to salah, instruct them, yes, to salah when they are 7. Wadribuhum, and strike them when they turn 10. Strike them when they turn 10 if they have not already performed their salah. Yes, of course, if you have started early, yes, you see the age of the age of which you are required to instruct them is at 7. But in truth, yes, in truth, if they live in a household of which the father and the mother prays and prays regularly and prays all the wajibat and prays the nawafil, they will follow, yes, because before 7, no instructions are needed. They will follow you in prayer. Yes. Naam, and farrik, as the Prophet said, and separate their beds. Separate their beds. Naam. So these are amongst the wajib and the muharramat that is widely practiced in our times, and also that which is widely practiced in our times amongst the muharramat that pertains to the rules of ikhtilat between men and women, and what is to be, we are basically, billah, in our lifestyles. As in our lifestyles, we have normalized, we have desensitized ourselves, our children, yes, to the things that is haram. Billah. Yes, a person may find himself as a couple, but the father and the mother and the children, yes, find themselves before a television and watches, some shows which is unbecoming, yes, which is unbecoming on Netflix or some internet provider, yes, of which the haram is displayed before their very eyes, yes, and these are basically the muhramat that we need to warn ourselves. And if we habituate ourselves, yes, and some grandparents do that with their grandkids, they put on some of these shows which are not proper, yes, for not just for them to watch, but especially for them to watch with their children. These are the muhramat. Yes, na'am. لا ولا يكفيه إلا أن يتلقى جميع ذلك من عالم يخشى الله ويدين بالحق والعامة تخطئ وتصيب فإياك أن تفعل ما يفعلونه تترك ما يتركونه ابتداء بهم. Of course, also another important aspect of seeking knowledge, and that's it, is that it will not suffice us. Just learning on our own, especially we live now in a day of DIY. We live in the time of Sheikh Google and YouTube. We have to be very careful. Yes, that we have to take our knowledge to all of that knowledge. And remember, Imam al-Haddad is writing this more than 300 years ago. Yes, perhaps nearly 350 years ago. He already pointed out to us that if we were to seek religious knowledge, we must seek it from an alim, yes, from a person who is a knower, who is fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yakhshallah wa yadinu bil haqq. Yes, yadinu bil haqq. And he practices his religion truthfully. Yes. Why is this important? Yes. First, the first requirement is that he must be a knower, an alim. Yes? He must be a scholar, erudite. He must be a person who has been trained by other scholars, whose knowledge is ascertained by other scholars. Yes, this is in order that the transmission becomes correct. Yes. And secondly, certainly, he must have khashyatillah. He must have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if he does not have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then in his promulgations, then in his fatwa, yes, there will be compromises, and there will be that which is self-serving, and so on. وَيَدِينُ بِالْحَقِّ. And he must be a person who practices his religion. وَالْعَامَةُ تُخْطِئ وَتُصِبْ وَإِيَّاكَ أَن تَفْعَلْ مَا يَفْعَلُونَهُ. And do not take as the source of your religion the generality of people. And Imam al-Haddad is saying this, whereas he was living in Tarim. Yes, he was living in Tarim, of which it is said about Tarim that Ashari', yes, that the roads of Tarim is a sheikh liman la shaykha lah, is a sheikh for the one who doesn't have a sheikh. Because, especially during Imam al-Haddad's time, it was still special. What more in the period, before Imam al-Haddad, it used to be said that the Jami' is the grand mosque of Hadramaut, yes, the Jami' of Tarim. Yes, it used to be said that the first saf, yes, which can fill up to 300 people, was entirely filled by muftis. Yes, entirely filled by muftis, meaning to say those who have reached. This is not basically a mufti which is a government position. This is the mufti of a person who has reached an independence in judgment with regards to the affair of the religion. Yes, so 300. Yes, the first saf would be filled with just muftis. Yes, and so on, the ulama and atqiya. Yes, this was Tarim before Imam al-Haddad, and during the time of Imam al-Haddad, there were still aspects of greatness of the town of Tarim. And even then he warned, yes, the generality of people. Do not follow the generality of people. Do not follow the am. Yes, do not follow the am. Do not follow netizens, certainly. Yes, democracy is an unreliable principle with regards to knowledge. Yes, knowledge cannot be democratized, so to speak, in the sense that it would lead to a dictatorship of relativism. Yes, democratizing knowledge, or basically subjecting everything to a pole, yes, is not determinative of the truth of a matter. What more in the matters of religion? Yes. Whereas Imam Haddad said, وَالْعَامَةُ تُخْطِئْ وَتُصِيبْ. The generality of people, sometimes they get things right and sometimes they get things wrong. فَإِيَّاكَ أَن تَفْعَلْ مَا يَفْعَلُونَهُ وَتَتْرُكْ. So therefore, people that do not do something because they did, do not leave something because they left it. Yes, just by following them. And this also refers to the adat. Yes, this refers to the adat. As we know, for example, among in the Islamic civilization of the Malay archipelago, yes, in this there are elements of culture. There are elements of culture that does not contradict the religion of Islam. Yes, that does not contradict the religion of Islam nor its principles. So therefore, they are as adat, as customs. They are things which are praiseworthy because they bring people together. They bring people together. And the fact that they have been tested over time meant that it is a means of socializing and so on. But it is not in itself an argument. Yes, it is not in itself an argument of its permissibility, nor its commendability. Especially because we know that there is ebb and flow. Yes, there is ebb and flow with regards to the state of knowledge amongst the community. Yes, because from time to time, let us say, the ulama and the awliya and the students of knowledge who are sincere, the effects of their da'wah becomes, undergoes a revival. Yes, and of that we will see then its impacts. And then from time to time, let us say, in their children's generation, they may change their interests, they may change their values. And it is especially since the time of, with regards to the Malay archipelago, the time where secularization begins to set in and the corruption of knowledge becomes to set in. So therefore, there are several movements. There is a movement towards secularization and liberalization. There is a movement to return to the pre-Islamic beliefs and practices. There are also, currents that lead to, in general, de-Islamization. So all of these things makes the marketplace highly unreliable as a source of guidance. You must return to the book. Yes, you must return to the book. You must return to the scholars, and regardless of people's emotions. Yeah? Because sometimes that which has been held as an heirloom over generations, yes, that becomes a prized possession, and certainly it would lead to a strong current of emotions. Yes, because just as the Arabs of Mecca, when the Prophet ﷺ brought that which was new, yes, they became they became angry and responded with hatred. Yes, so therefore. فإن الاقتداء لا يصح إلا بالعلماء العاملين. So اقتداء, to follow, yes, it is only sah, yes, to intelligent trust is only to be accorded to the alim who is an am, yes, ulama al-amilin. وقد عز اليوم عالم يعمل بعلمه. Allah Akbar. Yes, what sad news. Imam al-Haddad said of his time 300 years ago. An alim who practices by his knowledge has become rare these days. Rare 300 over years ago. What more now? Yes, an alim who is an amil. Yes, waliyadu billah. Certainly, yes. If we look at this, yes, iqtida, yes, the act of following. We live in an age now that we follow so many people in Instagram, in Facebook, in Twitter, and in various other platforms, of which they are not alim amil. Yes, of which they are not alim and amil, no authorities in the religion. And we take فإذا رأيت العالم في هذا الزمان يفعل شيئا أو يتركه مما يجهل كونه حقا أو باطلا فلا تك فلا تك بمجرد رؤيته في الفعل أو الترك حتى تسأله عن وجه ذلك في شرع. So therefore, in our time, what is better, he said, if you since such people are rare, so if you see a teacher, yes, in our time, in continues our time, he practices something, he doesn't do something of which you do not know. Is that matter haq or batil, true or false? Do not then فلا تكتفي. Do not then consider it sufficient that just because you saw he did something or he left something and you ask him, yes, what is the hukum? Yes, في شرع وحكمه في الدين. Yes, what is it? What is the judgment of the religion? Because it is not impossible. Although he might be embarrassed, he might be ashamed if it turns out that what he practices, what he believes is the contrary of what he knows, but you should ask him anyways. ولا يحتاج المسلم في تحصيل ما هو فرض عليه من العلم إلى طول مادة ولا يكاد تلهقه مشقة في ذلك لسهولة ويكفي الطالب الفطن في تعلم ذلك أن يجلس مع العالم المتقن ساعة أو ساعة. It doesn't mean, as Imam al-Haddad knows, that in the challenges of our day-to-day life, perhaps that you will not be able to sit in long periods of time. Yes, you will not be able to financially support yourself and perform your other day-to-day duties if you were to spend your entire day in seeking knowledge or to sit with scholars. So therefore, he said, it is therefore sufficient for a seeker, a talib who is intelligent, that if he were to sit with an alim who is mutqin. Yes, the sharat, the condition is that the alim, the scholar, must be somebody who is established in his knowledge. What is sufficient? Sa'ah or sa'atain, yes, min zaman wa qad ja'a a'rabi. Yes, to sit with a scholar for an hour or 2 hours, yes, once a week. And if you can increase the time, 1 hour every day. Yes, Imam Haddad recommends 1 hour or half an hour every day. The custom of the people in Tarim, yes, even for the laborers, even for those who work in the markets, is that they would come to the madras in the morning. They would come and listen as to the madras in the morning. Uh, Traditionally, it was once a week. Yes, on Wednesdays they would come to the madras and listen to the Ihya Ulumuddin being recited, because the Ihya encompasses the religion. Yes. So gradually, once over time, the Ihya has been moved to be read at the maqam of Imam Al-Aidarus every Mondays, but the madras remains. But a selection of books are now read, and it extends until today, and it is now extended to 2 days a week. So it's twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays in the mornings, and they read, the tafsir of the Quran, the Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari, a book in fiqh, yes, a book in fiqh, and then they read one of Imam al-Haddad's books. So the staple would be Imam al-Haddad's silsilah, his books, yes, the 11 books. So after one book, they will read another until they have finished all 11. They will start again, and then they will read also the Majmu' of Imam Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir. Yeah, so the Majmu' of Imam Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir and Imam al-Haddad's books, these are basically comprehensive presentations of knowledge in the pattern of the Ihya. So those who attend these madaris, yes, are not just the scholars who would read the books for the sadara, for the professor to profess upon them and to make commentary upon them, as well as the students who stay within the lodgings. But these are your general people. Yes, they are people who work in the markets, because the Jaya or the Rubat of Tarim is situated right in the middle, yes, right in the middle of the souk of Tarim, yes, of the bazaar of the marketplace of Tarim. So many of the laborers, many of the business people, even teachers of madrasa, those who teach children and so on, they would come in the early mornings, 1 hour after Ishraq, to listen to this 1.5 hour madras, and continuously like that. And this, and this makes it such that many of them become very well attuned to the religion. And then, of course, Friday night they might attend the Rauha, and they find other times of the day of which, and some events are conducted annually, others are conducted weekly, others are conducted monthly, of which they can participate in order that they can benefit from the religious tradition of Islam. So, but what is sufficient, as Imam Haddad said, if you can spend 1 or 2 hours a day, or a week, or some portion which is regular. وقد جاء أعرابي إلى رسول صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يخطب على منبره فسأله أن يعلمه مما علمه الله. Yes, because he gives as an example, there was a Bedouin Arab who came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم while the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم was on his mimbar, in his podium, let us say, and he asked the Prophet to teach him of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught him. Yani the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he then descended from the minbar. He taught this man what is required to be taught, and then he ascended. Yes. In other words, the bare minimum of the requirements of your religion can be studied in a short span, but you ought to increase, of course, and augment that knowledge, depending on, because it's depending on your requirements. Wa al jumlah. Yes, and as a whole, فَمَنْ أَرَادَ, whoever wishes to be safe. Yes, whoever wishes to be safe. And what is safety in this sense? Safety from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from an eternity of torment, from an eternity of regret. Whoever wishes to be safe, And whoever wishes to gain yaghnam, and what is there to gain? To gain the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain the rewards of the hereafter in Jannah. فَعَلَيْهِ أَنْ لَا يَدْخُلْ فِي شَيْءٍ. He must not enter into an affair. Yes, do not enter into a venture, a partnership. Do not enter into a company of people, a company or anything. وَلَا يُقِيمُ عَلَى فِعْلِ شَيْءٍ. And do not perform any actions. Do not perform any actions. قَدْ دَخَلْ فِيهِ, if that he has entered, حَتَّى يَعْلَمْ, until he knows what is the hukum. Yes, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pronouncement pertaining to it? Is it wajib? Is it nadab, meaning to say that supererogatory, or the performance of which brings rewards, but leaving behind doesn't earn you sins? Awil ibaha, or is it something merely mubah, which is allowed? Or is it something that is haram, and lesser than that, makruh? فَجَمِيعُ الْأَشْيَاء, and everything, yes, all of the things in this dunya, la takhlu, is not absent from one of these matters. Either it is wajib, nadab, mubah, or haram. Yes. والأشبه أن هذا الأمر واجب على كل مسلم. And this has become something which is wajib over all Muslims. Yes, and especially in our times. Yes, because we live in a time of which we are in need of greater illumination, because we have now lived in a time of which the Darul Harb, as Professor Attas has described, the abode of warfare has entered into the Darussalam, the abode of peace. The Darussalam, yes, of which the first pattern was the Madinatul Nabi, yes, is such that everything in the town, yes, it becomes the standard of humanity, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was its dayan. He was the giver of the law, and he determines the affairs of the matter until Sayyidina Imam Malik took, yes, the Amal Ahlul Madinah as a source for the religion. So the customs of the people of Medina was the source of the religion. But we do not enjoy that in our time. Yes, we do not enjoy that in our time. From time to time, yes, the inheritors of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were able, have been able to create enclaves, sanctuaries, of which that which was within their walls, within their sanctuaries, and in the case of Tarim, in the Ba'alawi tradition, in the town of Tarim, something resemblant to that, something that, let us say, that takes inspiration from that. Yes, but we do not have such privileges in our time. So therefore, we have to be more scrupulous. Yes, we have to be more scrupulous. Naam. ثم إن المؤمنين ينقسمون إلى عموم وخصوص. Then the believers, they are subdivided into that which is the generality of believers, and then there are some amongst them who are of the elect, or the elites amongst them. فالعموم قد يقعون في ترك الواجبات. The generality of people, sometimes they leave that which is wajib, and sometimes they do that which is haram. وأحسنهم, and the best amongst the generality of people, من يبادر بالتوبة والاستغفار. Since we now live in a time of which, many of us tend to fall very quickly, we tend to slip, yes, or occasionally, yes, into that which is haram. What is required of us is to quickly perform tawbah, and to quickly make istighfar. ولا يحرصون على فعل النوافل, yes, and do not be hasty in the performance of the nawafil, but at the same time fail in the mubahat. Yes, or rather that the generality of people, they do not have any interest to perform that which is nawafil, isn't it? Now we hear we hear this always, that if something is sunnah, itu sunnat je, they say that, isn't it? That which is sunnah, that means they don't have to do it. Yes, Allahu Akbar. And they expand greatly in the affairs of the mubahat, yes, if they do not fall into the haram. Waliyadu billah. Yes, everyone wishes to have not only a house, but they wish to have a second house. And of the house, they wish for it to be decorated. And of the decorated, they wish for the decorations to have decorations, and so on and so forth. They wish to have colors to add colors to their food. Yes, to the extent that they've all become foodies. Yes, of course, it is amongst the mubahat. It is allowed. We are not to be too hard on ourselves. But when we reflect, as what Imam al Haddad spoke about in the previous chapters about some of the bid'ah included, yes, things which permit the love of the dunya to enter into the heart. Yes, the Sahaba were people who were very austere in their living. And some of the bid'ah that was introduced included having two condiments instead of one. And what was a condiment to them was let us say vinegar or salt. Yes, these are two condiments. Yes, they don't know our gulai or sambal, which is several condiments in one, in their standards. And of course, there is the bid'ah of setan. That was also a bid'ah. Yes, that they did not know that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not know that. Yes, yes, but we cannot measure ourselves. If we cannot measure ourselves to their standards, then at the very least, yes, I mean, in the standards of actions, then at the very least, we try to fall within. Yes, we try to fall uh, within the halal of the Sharia. Amal khusus. But as for those who wishes to be amongst the elect, فَيُؤَدُّونَ الْوَاجِبَاتِ, they do all that which is wajib. وَيَتْرُكُونَ الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ, they leave everything which is haram. بِكُلِّ حَالٍ, on every action. وَيُحَافِظُونَ عَلَى فِعْلِ الْمَنْدُوبَاتِ, and they take care that they perform the mandub, yes, that which is supererogatory. وَيَقْتَسِرُونَ مِنَ الْمُبَاهَاتِ, and they take less and less of that which is allowed, the mubahat. Yes, and alama yakunu wasila ila al-qiyam. So basically, they reduce until it becomes enough for them, just enough for them, so that they can perform the commands and avoid the avoid the prohibitions. And this is amazing because the arkan of tariqah, as Imam al-Aidarus said, it is taqleel al-ta'am wa taqleel al-niyam wa taqleel al-kalam wa atizal anil anam. It is first and foremost reduce in one's food intake, to reduce speech, to sleep, and to avoid the company of people, yes, or unless the one's necessary. In other words, these are the means through which they foster spiritual strength. Allahu Akbar. Yes, I remember one of our teachers, Sheikh Muhiyuddin al-Banjari, he once said that if we look at the previous generations, then we will see that the era of the Sahaba, that's the era of the Sahaba, were the times of which, yes, their salvation was through mujahada. Their salvation was through struggles and suffering, physical. They suffered torments. They fought wars and battles with the Prophet. They experienced thirst and hunger and fear and so on. Yes. Then came the generation of scholars. Yes, the generation of scholars, the likes of the Tabaqat, Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam al-Subki, Imam ibn Hajar, Imam al-Ramli, and all these great Imams, including Imam al-Ghazali. Yes, all of them. Yes, we mention all their names for their labors for this Ummah, Imam al-Tabari and so on, As-Suyuti. These great Imams, theirs were the time marked by their labor of knowledge and their achievement in knowledge. It is said that if Imam al-Ghazali's writings, yes, the known writings, because there are many more manuscripts that are not handed down to many to the rest of the generations. If the known writings of Imam al-Ghazali were to be measured according to his age, yes, which he died relatively young, I think in his 50s, it is said that he was so productive such that from the day of his birth until his death, divided by the amount of his productivity, uh, the amount of what he has produced, and then he would have written 4 pages every day, or not 4 pages, four kurras, meaning to say 4 exercise books, 4 monographs every day, 4 monographs. Well, so that theirs was the tabaqat of struggle for knowledge, and ours, that's what is left for us. Yes. Perhaps ours is the tabaqat, the generation of muhibbun, yes, muhibbin, the generation of the lovers. If we can, if we can at least love them and respect them, and have adab towards them, and try to emulate them the best as we can. Uh, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala include us amongst them by virtue of our love and our sincerity of love towards them. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us um, from the devotions and knowledge, inshallah. All right. I understand that we will say for today, inshallah. الفاتحة بالقبول تمام كل سؤال ومأمون صلاح شأن ظاهرا وباطنا في الدين والدنيا والآخرة دافعة لكل شر جالبة لكل خير لنا ولأحبابنا ولوالدينا وبنية أن الله ينور قلوبنا وكواكبنا مع التقى والهدى والعفاف والغنى والموت على دين الإسلام والإيمان بلا محنة ولا امتحان بحق سيد ولد عدنان ولكل نية صالحة وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم سر أسرار الفاتحة. Okay then, thank you everyone. Wassalamu alaikum.